library.
Most people will live their entire lives without ever being truly heard. You might think you are communicating, but you are just making noise. You are invisible. People don't listen to you because you haven't given them a reason to, and that is why you are still waiting for the success you think you deserve. Hard work is a baseline, but influence is the accelerator. Without it, you are just a ghost in a crowded room. Chapter 1: The Invisible Wall of Silence. Sit back, take a breath, look around the room you are in right now. Everything you see, from the chair you are sitting on to the device in your hand, was the result of a negotiation. Someone had an idea, and they had to convince someone else to fund it, build it, or buy it. The world is not run by the smartest people. It is run by those who can articulate their vision so clearly that others feel foolish not to follow. I want you to realize something early on in our journey together. Your bank account is a direct reflection of your ability to move people. If you cannot influence, you cannot scale. If you cannot communicate, you cannot lead. Think about the last time you walked into a social gathering or a business meeting. Did the energy in the room shift when you entered? Did people pause their conversations to acknowledge your presence, or did you simply blend into the wallpaper? Be honest with yourself. This is a safe space for growth. Most of you are playing the game of life on mute. You speak, but your words carry no weight. You ask for a raise, and it sounds like a plea rather than a statement of fact. You try to lead a team, and they see a peer, not a captain. We are going to change that today. Charisma is often misunderstood as a loud, boisterous personality. That is a mistake. Real charisma is a frequency. It is a quiet, steady hum of certainty that radiates from a person who knows exactly who they are and what they want. Have you ever met someone who spoke very little yet held the entire room's attention? That is the power of presence. It is not about the words, it's about the space between the words. Let me tell you about a young man I met 3 years ago. We'll call him Julian. Julian was brilliant. He graduated at the top of his class and landed a job at a prestigious venture capital firm. He knew the numbers better than anyone, but at every board meeting, he was ignored. He would present his data, and the senior partners would talk over him. He came to me frustrated. He felt the world was unfair. I told him, "Julian, you are speaking like a man who is afraid to take up space. You are apologizing for your existence with your body language and your tone." We worked on one simple thing: the pause. Most people are so afraid of silence that they fill it with filler words like ah, or like. They rush their sentences because they subconsciously believe their listener's time is more valuable than their own message. I told Julian to wait 2 full seconds after being asked a question before answering. I told him to hold eye contact until the other person looked away. 6 months later, Julian wasn't just being heard, he was being promoted. He didn't get smarter, he just became more expensive to ignore. Are you rushing your life away? When you speak, are you breathing from your chest or your diaphragm? When you enter a room, do your eyes dart around looking for approval, or do you pick a point and claim the territory? These are micro-signals. The human brain is a highly evolved radar system. We are constantly scanning for status. If you signal low status through your nervous tics or your rapid speech, people will instinctively treat you as a subordinate. If you signal high status through stillness and controlled movements, they will treat you as an authority. Consider the psychology of the high-stakes negotiation. Let's say you are pitching a $1 million deal. The amateur focuses on the features. They talk and talk, trying to prove the value. The master focuses on the tension. They state their price, and then they stop. They let the silence do the work. The first person to speak after a price is quoted is usually the one who loses the leverage. Can you sit in silence for 10 seconds without breaking? If you can't, you aren't in control of yourself. And if you aren't in control of yourself, you will never be in control of the room. Influence is also about empathy, but not the soft kind you hear about in textbooks. I am talking about tactical empathy. It is the ability to see the world through your opponent's eyes so clearly that you can predict their next move. Money is never just about money. It is about security, or status, or freedom. When you speak to a client or a partner, are you talking about what you want, or are you talking about what they need to feel? A million-dollar communicator doesn't sell products. They sell solutions to internal anxieties. Think of your favorite leader or actor. Watch them closely. You will notice they move slower than the people around them. They don't fidget. They don't check their phone every 30 seconds. They are present. This presence is a gift you give to others, and in return, they give you their trust. If you are constantly looking at your watch or scanning the room for someone more important, you are telling the person in front of you that they do not matter. And if they do not matter, why should they help you get what you want? I want you to try a small experiment tomorrow. When you go to a coffee shop or walk into your office, don't look down. Keep your chin parallel to the ground. When you speak to the cashier or your boss, slow your speech down by 20%. Watch how they react. You will see a subtle shift in their posture. They will lean in. They will listen closer. You are beginning to project a higher frequency. You are moving from the noise to the signal. This book is not about tricks. It is about a fundamental internal shift. You cannot fake charisma for long. People have a built-in bullshit detector. You have to genuinely believe that your presence is a value add to any environment you enter. If you don't believe it, no amount of eye contact or hand gestures will save you. You must cultivate a sense of quiet worth. You are a person of substance. Your time is valuable. Your words are rare. We are building a foundation here. In the coming chapters, we will dive into the mechanics of the voice, the architecture of a perfect story, and the dark psychology of persuasion. But none of that matters if you don't first break through the invisible wall of silence. You must decide today that you will no longer be a background character in your own life. You are the protagonist. It is time you started sounding like one. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself a year from now. You walk into a room and you feel the weight of your own influence. You speak and people stop what they are doing to listen. You ask for what you want and it is given to you because you have made it the most logical outcome. That version of you exists. They are just waiting for you to master the tools. Take a moment to reflect on your biggest communication failure. Was it a job interview where you felt small? Was it a date where you couldn't find the right words? Don't judge yourself for it. Use it as fuel. That version of you is dead. We are crafting someone new, someone premium, someone influential. Subscribe the Millionaire Library, and if you want to go deeper, I left a full playlist waiting for you in the description. Chapter 2. The Architecture of Status. Most people spend their lives trying to buy status with things they cannot afford to impress people they do not like. They think a watch, a car, or a designer suit will bridge the gap between who they are and who they want to be. They are wrong. Status is not something you wear. It is a frequency you broadcast. It is the invisible architecture of every human interaction. If you do not understand the rules of status, you will always be a guest in someone else's world. I want you to stop being a guest. I want you to become the host. Think about the last time you felt small in a conversation. Perhaps it was with a boss, a wealthy client, or someone you were deeply attracted to. You felt your heart rate increase. Your voice went up an octave. You started nodding too much. You were seeking rapport. This is the cardinal sin of the high-value individual. Seeking rapport is the act of trying to prove you belong, but the moment you try to prove you belong, you have already signaled that you do not. High status is not about being better than others. It is about being entirely unaffected by the judgment of others. It is about being the person who sets the temperature of the room, rather than the person who reads the thermometer. Let us talk about your voice. Your voice is a physical manifestation of your nervous system. When you are anxious, your vocal cords tighten, your breath becomes shallow, you speak from your throat. This creates a thin, reedy sound that signals weakness to the primal parts of the human brain. Have you ever noticed how the most powerful people in the world tend to have a resonance that seems to come from their very core? They speak from the diaphragm. They allow their voice to vibrate in their chest. This is not a genetic gift. It is a choice. It is the result of a calm mind. I want you to try something right now. Wherever you are, sit up straight. Pull your shoulders back and down. Take a deep breath into your belly, not your chest. Now say your own name out loud. Listen to the resonance. Is it a question or a statement? Most people speak with what we call an upward inflection. Every sentence ends on a higher note, as if they are asking for permission to finish. It sounds like this. My name is Mark. I'm here for the interview. This is the sound of a subordinate. A mentor, a leader, a person of influence speaks with a neutral or downward inflection. They state their name as a fact. My name is Mark. It is a closed loop. It requires no validation. Do you see the difference? It is subtle, but in the world of high-level business and social dynamics, the subtle is everything. I once mentored a young entrepreneur who was trying to raise $5 million for his tech startup. He had the data, he had the vision, but every time he pitched to investors, he sounded like a child asking for an extra hour of television. He was rushing his words. He was using filler sounds to avoid the silence. He was leaning forward, physically invading the investor's space in an attempt to be liked. I told him to stop trying to be liked and start being respected. We practiced one thing, the breaking of rapport. I told him that when an investor asked a difficult question, he should lean back, look them in the eye, and wait 3 seconds before responding. This is a power move because it signals that you are not afraid of their scrutiny. It shows that you are the prize, not the petitioner. When he went into his next meeting, he didn't change a single slide in his presentation. He only changed his status. He walked in, sat down, and took up space. He spoke slowly. He ended his sentences with a downward inflection. He raised the $5 million in 3 weeks. Status is also about how you move through the world. Look at the way a lion moves through the grass. It is not hurried. It is not frantic. It has nothing to prove to the gazelle. Now look at the way most people walk down a city street. They are dodging, weaving, looking at their feet, checking their phones. They are reacting to their environment. To be a person of influence, you must become the point of origin. You must move with intentionality. When you walk into a building, walk as if you own it, but without the need to prove you own it. There is a quiet confidence in a man who moves slowly because he knows the world will wait for him. Are you someone who reacts or someone who responds? There is a massive psychological difference. Reaction is emotional and immediate. It is a low-status trait. If someone insults you and you snap back instantly, you have given them control over your emotions. You have lowered your status to match theirs. But if you pause, look at them with a hint of curiosity, and then continue your day as if they were a minor inconvenience, you have maintained your status. You have shown that your internal state is not for sale. I want you to consider the concept of social value. In every interaction, there is a giver and a taker. The person with the highest status is usually the one who is providing the most value while needing the least. This value isn't just money. It is energy. It is stability. It is the ability to remain calm when everyone else is panicking. If you can be the calmest person in a room of chaos, you will naturally become the leader. People will look to you for direction because your lack of reaction signals that you have a plan. Think about your career for a moment. Are you the person who is always available, always replying to emails within seconds, always saying yes to every request? You might think you are being a good employee. In reality, you are signaling that your time has low value. You are a commodity. The premium individual is scarce. Their time is a limited resource. They do not jump when the phone rings. They do not explain themselves when they say no. A simple no is a complete sentence. The moment you start explaining why you can't do something, you are apologizing for your boundaries. And apologies are for those who have done something wrong. Having boundaries is never a mistake. What would happen if you stopped caring if people liked you? Truly. Imagine for a second that you were so secure in your own worth that the opinions of others felt like distant white noise. How would you stand? How would you speak? You would likely find that your charisma would skyrocket. People are drawn to those who do not need them. It is one of the great paradoxes of human nature. If you want influence, you must be willing to walk away from it. I have sat in rooms with billionaires and heads of state. The one thing they all have in common is a total lack of urgency. They are not in a rush to prove they are important. They know they are important. This translates into a stillness that is almost hypnotic. They don't fidget with their pens. They don't tap their feet. They are comfortable in their own skin. This is the level of mastery I want for you. It starts with the realization that status is a choice you make every morning when you wake up. It is a garment you put on before you even get dressed. As we move forward, I want you to start observing the status games being played around you. Watch the way people interact in a restaurant. Watch who leans in and who leans back. Watch who breaks eye contact first. You will begin to see the world in a completely different way. You will see the invisible strings that move people, and once you see the strings, you can begin to pull them. You are no longer a spectator in the game of life. You are a student of power, and the first lesson of power is that it is never given, it is assumed. You do not wait for someone to tell you that you are important. You decide that you are, and you act accordingly until the world has no choice but to agree with you. This is the foundation of the premium life. This is the beginning of your true influence. Tonight, before you sleep, I want you to reflect on one area of your life where you have been playing small. Where have you been seeking rapport? Where have you been rushing? Where have you been ending your sentences with a question mark? Identify it, acknowledge it, and then make the conscious decision to kill that version of yourself. Tomorrow, you will walk out that door as a person of high status. You will move slower. You will speak deeper. You will be the host of your own reality. The world is ready to listen. Are you ready to speak? Chapter 3. The Master of Frames. Imagine you are walking into a high-end gallery to buy a piece of art. The frame around the painting tells your brain how to value what is inside. If the frame is cheap and cracked, you see the art as a bargain. If the frame is gold and heavy, you see the art as a masterpiece. Human interaction works exactly the same way. The frame is the set of assumptions you bring to a conversation. It is the context that surrounds your words. Whoever has the strongest frame will always win the interaction, regardless of who has the better logic or the better product. Let me give you a very concrete example from the world of high finance. I was once in a room with a group of investors who were trying to push me into a corner. They started the meeting by saying, "We have 30 minutes, so try to be quick and tell us why we should care about this." That is a frame. Their frame was, "We are the prize, you are the solicitor, and your time is less valuable than ours." If I had started talking fast and pitching hard, I would have accepted their frame. I would have lost before I even began. Instead, I sat back. I let 3 seconds of silence hang in the air. I looked at the lead investor and said, "Actually, I think 30 minutes is perfect. It's just enough time for me to decide if your firm has the right culture for the kind of partnership I'm looking for. Shall we begin?" In 10 seconds, I flipped the frame. Now, I was the prize. I was the one evaluating them. The energy in the room shifted instantly. They stopped checking their phones. They straightened their ties. They were now playing in my world. Think about your own life. When someone asks you, "Why should I hire you?" or "Why should I go out with you?" how do you respond? Most people start listing their qualities. They start selling. This is a low-status move. You are seeking approval. A master of frames might respond with a smile and say, "That's a fair question, but I'm more interested in knowing what you're looking for to see if we're even a match." Do you see what happened? You didn't answer the question. You redirected the energy. You maintained your position as the selector, not the selected. Ask yourself right now, in your daily interactions, who is asking the questions and who is providing the answers? Usually, the person asking the questions is the one holding the frame. When you answer a question, you are giving away a piece of your power. I am not saying you should be rude. I am saying you should be aware. If someone asks you an invasive or belittling question, you don't have to defend yourself. Defending is losing. You can ignore the question, reframe it, or answer with a question of your own. Let's look at this through the lens of psychology. Human beings are wired to seek the path of least resistance. When two people meet, their frames collide. There is a brief moment of tension as the brains decide whose reality is more stable. If I am certain and you are hesitant, my frame will eventually swallow yours. You will find yourself adopting my language, my pace, and my opinions. This is how cult leaders work, but it is also how the world's greatest CEOs lead their companies. They have a reality so thick and so certain that others want to live inside it. I want to share a micro story about a friend of mine, an architect. He was brilliant, but struggling to get clients to pay his premium fees. They would always try to haggle. They would say, "The other guy can do it for half the price." He used to get defensive. He would explain his overhead and his years of study. It never worked. I told him to change his frame. The next time a client said that, he simply looked at them and said, "You're right, there are many people who can draw lines on a page. But if you're looking for someone to build a legacy, I'm the only one in this city. If price is your main concern, I can recommend some great juniors to you." He didn't lower his price. He didn't argue. He simply set a frame where he was the only option for excellence. The client signed the contract at the full rate that afternoon. People don't buy products. They buy the confidence of the person selling them. If you are willing to walk away from a deal, you have the strongest frame possible. The person who needs the deal the least is the one who will get the best terms. How does this apply to your relationships? If you are always the one texting first, always the one making the plans, always the one apologizing, you have accepted a low-value frame. You have signaled that the other person is the center of the universe and you are just a satellite. To flip this, you must develop the power of the pause. You must become comfortable with the possibility of the interaction ending. When you are no longer afraid to lose someone, you become the most attractive person in their life. There are three main ways to break a frame that is being forced upon you. The first is silence. Silence is the ultimate frame breaker. When someone says something intended to rattle you, just look at them. Don't blink. Don't react. Let their words hang in the air until they become uncomfortable. The second is humor. If you can laugh at an insult or a high-pressure tactic, you show that it has no power over you. You are literally telling the other person that their reality is so insignificant that it's funny to you. The third is the reframing statement. This is when you take their premise and move it to a different context. If someone says, "You're too young for this role," you say, "Exactly. I haven't had time to learn the bad habits that are killing your competitors." I want you to realize that frames are everywhere. The news has a frame. Your parents have a frame. Your friends have a frame. Most of these are designed to keep you safe, small, and predictable. But you weren't born to be predictable. You were born to be a force. To do that, you must protect your mental space. Do not let people dump their anxieties and limitations into your reality. If someone tells you that the economy is bad and it's a hard time to start a business, that is their frame. It doesn't have to be yours. In your frame, a bad economy is just a period where the competition is weak and assets are on sale. When you leave your house tomorrow, I want you to pay attention to the frames. Notice when someone tries to make you feel rushed. Notice when someone tries to make you feel like you owe them something. Stop and breathe. Ask yourself, do I want to live in this person's reality? If the answer is no, stay silent. Set your own pace. Speak your own truth. You will feel a strange sensation. At first, it might feel like tension, but soon it will feel like freedom. The most powerful frame you can ever hold is the frame of the amused observer. Imagine you are watching a play. The characters are shouting, crying, and fighting, but you are in the audience. You are safe. You are watching with interest, but you are not involved in the drama. When you can bring this energy to a business negotiation or a social conflict, you become untouchable. You are the only adult in the room. People will naturally gravitate toward your stability. We are moving into deep waters now. You are starting to see the world not as a collection of objects and people, but as a web of psychological forces. You are learning to navigate these forces with grace and precision. Remember, a master of communication doesn't need to shout to be heard. They just need to control the frame. I want you to think about a conversation you have been avoiding. Perhaps it's a difficult talk with a partner or a negotiation with a landlord. I want you to visualize that conversation. But this time, don't focus on what you will say. Focus on the frame you will hold. See yourself as the calm, immovable center of the interaction. See the other person's energy bouncing off you like rain on a window pane. That is the feeling of power. That is the feeling of the premium life. Subscribe the Millionaire Library, and if you want to go deeper, I left a full playlist waiting for you in the description. Chapter 4. The Magnetic Pull of Mystery. The greatest mistake you can make in communication is oversharing. We live in an age of digital exhibitionism where everyone is screaming for attention, laying their entire lives bare for strangers to see. But value is tied to scarcity. When you tell everyone everything about your plans, your past, and your feelings, you become predictable. And the moment you become predictable, you become boring. A boring person can never be influential. Influence requires a certain level of tension, a gap between what people see and what they know. Think of the most captivating person you have ever met. They likely had a certain weight to them. When they spoke, it felt like they were only revealing 10% of what they actually knew. This is the iceberg principle of charisma. You want the world to see the tip, but you want them to feel the massive volume of substance beneath the surface. This creates curiosity, and curiosity is the most powerful psychological hook in existence. If you can make someone wonder about you, you have already won a permanent space in their mind. How do you cultivate this? It starts with your reaction to questions. When someone asks you about your success or your personal life, don't give them a monologue. Give them a snapshot. If someone asks how your business is going, don't list your struggles and your triumphs. Say, "It's a fascinating journey. We're currently focused on some very specific milestones." Then, stop. Turn the question back on them. By doing this, you have signaled that you are focused and disciplined, and you have avoided the trap of seeking validation through your story. Let me tell you about a high-stakes networking event I attended in London. The room was filled with ambitious young founders, all of them trying to outpitch each other. They were loud, fast, and exhausted. In the corner of the room sat an older man, leaning against a pillar with a glass of water. He wasn't talking to anyone, yet he was the center of gravity in that room. People would walk up to him, talk for 5 minutes, and walk away looking inspired. I eventually approached him. I asked him his secret. He smiled and said, "I just let them do the work. I listen until they've said everything they came here to say, and then I ask one question that proves I was actually listening." This is the secret of the high-status listener. Most people don't listen, they just wait for their turn to speak. They are so busy rehearsing their next sentence that they miss the subtle cues the other person is giving off. If you can become the person who truly listens, who holds eye contact without flinching, and who doesn't feel the need to fill every silence, you will become a magnet. People are starved for genuine attention. If you give it to them, they will attach themselves to you. They will tell you their secrets, their fears, and their goals. Knowledge is power, and the person who listens always has more knowledge than the person who talks. Are you comfortable with being misunderstood? This is a question most people can't answer honestly. The average person is terrified of being judged or perceived incorrectly, so they constantly explain themselves. "I didn't mean it like that," or "let me clarify." Every time you explain yourself to someone who hasn't earned that clarity, you are lowering your status. You are putting them in the position of a judge. A premium individual is comfortable in the gray area. If someone misunderstands you, let them. Their perception of you is none of your business. Your only business is your own intent and your own results. Let's apply this to your career and your money. In a job interview or a sales pitch, the tendency is to over-explain why you are the best. This reeks of a lack of confidence. Instead, use the power of the implied win. Act as if it is already a foregone conclusion that you are the best option. Use fewer words. Instead of saying, "I have 10 years of experience and I've worked with these brands and I can really help you," try saying, "Based on your current challenges, here is how I would approach the next 90 days. Do you want to see the roadmap?" You are moving from a state of pleading to a state of providing. You are showing, not telling. There is a psychological concept called reactance. It means that when people feel they are being pushed to do something, they instinctively push back. When you are too eager, too loud, or too salesy, you trigger reactance. You make people want to say no just to prove they have a choice. But mystery and silence do the opposite. They create a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. When you pull back, people lean in. When you speak less, they want to know more. You are using the laws of physics to manage your social life. Consider your digital presence. What does your social media say about you? If it's a constant stream of your thoughts and your meals, you are lowering your market value. You are making yourself a commodity. The most influential people often have the most curated or even non-existent social media footprints. They understand that their physical presence is the premium product. Don't give away for free what people should have to earn a seat at your table to experience. I want you to try a specific technique this week. I call it the echo. When someone speaks to you, wait a full second after they finish and then repeat the last 3 words of what they said back to them as a question. For example, if a client says, "We are really struggling with our current logistics," you simply say, "Current logistics." Then you stop. They will almost always continue, diving deeper into the problem, giving you more information and feeling a deep sense of rapport with you. You haven't added any noise, you have simply acted as a mirror. You are the mystery that allows them to discover themselves. Think about the way you use your body in a conversation. Are you a leaner? Do you lean toward people to show you are interested? Stop. This is a submissive posture. It signals that you are chasing their energy. Instead, lean back. Take up the space behind you. If you need to hear someone better, don't move your body toward them. Wait for them to speak louder or move toward you. This is a subtle game of physical territory. The person who moves the least is usually the person with the most power. You are learning to be a person of depth. Most people are like a shallow pond. You can see the bottom the moment you look in. I want you to be like the ocean, beautiful on the surface, but with depths and currents that are dangerous to the unprepared. This doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means being intentional. It means knowing that your words are your currency, and you shouldn't be spending them like a billionaire in a strip club. Spend them wisely. Save them for when they can buy the most impact. As we conclude this chapter, I want you to look at your calendar. Look at the people you are meeting this week. Decide now which parts of yourself you will keep in the shadow. Decide that you will ask more questions than you answer. Decide that you will be the most composed person in every room. You will feel the shift in how people treat you almost immediately. They will treat you with a new level of respect, perhaps even a bit of caution. That caution is the first sign that they recognize your power. You are no longer just another voice in the crowd. You are becoming a presence that lingers long after you have left the room. You are mastering the art of the invisible pull. The world is full of people who want to be heard. Be the person who is worth listening to. True persuasion is the art of making someone else have your way. It is a subtle, almost invisible process of alignment. I want you to understand a concept called cognitive ease. When a person is in a state of ease, they are more creative, more trusting, and more likely to say yes. When they are in a state of cognitive strain, they become vigilant, suspicious, and analytical. Most negotiators accidentally create strain by being too aggressive or too formal. A master creates ease. Think about a time you tried to convince a friend or a partner to do something and they resisted. You likely doubled down on your reasons. You said, "But it makes sense because of X, Y, and Z." In their head, they weren't listening to your reasons. They were formulating their rebuttal. This is the righting reflex. We have an instinctive urge to correct people. To be influential, you must kill this reflex. Instead of correcting, you must validate. Validation does not mean agreement. It means acknowledging their reality so they no longer feel the need to defend it. Let me give you a scenario. You are pitching a new strategy to a skeptical boss. They say, "We tried something like this 3 years ago and it failed miserably." The amateur says, "But this is different because the technology has changed." The master says, "You're right to be cautious. That failure 3 years ago was a significant hit to the department's resources, and it makes total sense that you wouldn't want to repeat that mistake." Now look at what happened. You didn't argue. You made them feel smart for being skeptical. Their guard drops. Now and only now can you introduce your new information. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to get everything they want with a smile while others have to fight for every inch? It is because the former understand the consistency principle. Human beings have a deep-seated psychological need to be consistent with their past statements and actions. If you can get someone to make a small, public commitment to a principle, they will fight to stay true to it later. Instead of asking for the big yes at the end, ask for 5 small yeses at the beginning. I once worked with a real estate developer who was stuck in a legal battle with a local community board. The board hated his project. They saw him as a greedy outsider. He wanted to go in there and show them the economic benefits and the jobs. I told him to do the opposite. I told him to go to the meeting and ask for their advice. He walked in and said, "I know there are concerns about the character of this neighborhood, and frankly, you know this area better than I ever will. If you were in my shoes, how would you balance growth with preservation?" By asking for their advice, he did 2 things. First, he raised their status. You don't ask for advice from people you don't respect. Second, he forced them into a frame of collaboration. They spent the next hour helping him solve his problem. Because they helped create the solution, they could no longer oppose it without contradicting themselves. That project was approved unanimously. Advice is the most powerful, low-friction way to gain an ally. Are you aware of the Benjamin Franklin effect? It's a psychological phenomenon where a person who has already performed a favor for you is more likely to do another favor for you than if they had received a favor from you. Most people try to win influence by doing things for others. This can actually create a sense of debt and resentment. But when you ask someone a small, non-burdensome favor, like borrowing a book or asking for a recommendation, you are signaling that you trust them. Their brain justifies the favor by thinking, "I must like this person, otherwise why would I be helping them?" Let's talk about the anchor. In any negotiation involving numbers, salary, price, or timelines, the first number mentioned becomes the anchor point. Every other number discussed will be judged in relation to that first one. If you are selling a service and you know it's worth $10,000, you might mention that a similar project usually costs $25,000 before giving your quote. You have set a high anchor. Now your $10,000 sounds like a bargain. If you hadn't set the anchor, $10,000 might have sounded expensive. Are you setting the anchors in your life, or are you letting others set them for you? Influence is also about the paradox of choice. If you give people too many options, they choose nothing. They become paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong decision. A premium communicator never offers a blank slate. They offer 2, perhaps 3 curated paths. Each path leads to a version of what the communicator wants, but the other person feels the autonomy of choice. Freedom is an illusion that humans require to feel safe. Give them the choice, but control the options. Think about your personal brand. Are you the expert or the authority? An expert is someone who knows a lot. An authority is someone who is recognized as a leader. People argue with experts. People follow authorities. You become an authority by being the one who defines the problem. Most people spend their time proposing solutions, but the person who can describe a problem better than the person experiencing it is automatically perceived as the one who has the solution. Stop selling the how and start mastering the why. I want you to reflect on your current circle of influence. Are you trying to persuade people who are fundamentally unpersuadable? A millionaire mentor knows that his time is too valuable to waste on closed minds. Sometimes the most powerful persuasive move you can make is to stop trying. When you walk away from a stubborn person, you reclaim your energy, and you often leave them wondering if they missed out on something. Tomorrow, I want you to practice reflective listening. When someone speaks to you, don't offer an opinion. Just say, "So, what you're saying is," and then paraphrase their point. Do this until they say, "Exactly." That word, "exactly," is the sound of a frame opening up. It is the sound of cognitive ease. Once you hear it, the door is open. You can walk through it with your ideas, your goals, and your vision. You are moving beyond the surface of communication. You are beginning to understand the levers and pulleys of human behavior. This is not about manipulation for harm. It is about mastery for impact. The world is a complex machine, and language is the interface. If you learn the code, you can change the reality. Stay calm, stay observant. The person who understands the human heart will always be more successful than the person who only understands the spreadsheet. You are becoming a master of both. We have discussed the voice, the frame, and the mystery. Now we must discuss the vibe. In the world of premium assets and high-level deals, we don't just look at the balance sheet, we look at the founder's composure. This is often called executive presence. It is the ability to project a sense of certainty that is so strong it becomes contagious. When you walk into a room, do you bring the weather with you, or do you let the room dictate your climate? Think about the concept of physical gravity. High-value individuals seem to move slower and more deliberately than everyone else. This is because they are not reacting to external stimuli. They are acting from internal conviction. When someone calls your name, do you snap your head around instantly like a startled bird? Or do you take a half second, turn your body, and then meet their eyes? That half second is the difference between a subordinate and a peer. It signals that you are the master of your own attention. Have you ever noticed how a professional poker player or a high-level negotiator keeps their hands? They are never hidden under the table, yet they are never fidgeting. They occupy what we call the power zone, the area between the waist and the chest. When they gesture, it is open and palm up, signaling honesty, or palm down, signaling authority. They never point. They never touch their face or neck, which are primal signs of discomfort. Let me share a story about a luxury real estate broker I knew in Monaco. He sold properties worth $50–60 million. He wasn't the most handsome man, nor did he have the most expensive car, but he had a way of standing that made the buildings he sold look more expensive. He used a technique called the anchor of stillness. Even in a crowded, noisy room, he would stand perfectly still for several minutes at a time, simply observing. This stillness made him a focal point. People were naturally drawn to him because he looked like a rock in a stormy sea. He didn't chase clients. They drifted toward him because he was the only thing in the room that wasn't moving. Are you leaking energy? Every time you check your phone unnecessarily, every time you adjust your tie, every time you look around the room to see who is watching you, you are leaking status. You are telling the world that you are not comfortable in your own skin. To be a person of influence, you must become socially expensive. This doesn't mean being arrogant. It means being contained. Think of your energy as a limited currency. Don't spend it on nervous habits. Let's look at the psychology of the pre-frame. This is the work you do before the meeting starts. In the Millionaire's world, we don't just show up. We send signals ahead of us. This might be a well-timed article about your work, a testimonial from a mutual contact, or even the way your assistant handles the scheduling. By the time you walk through the door, the other person should already have a frame of respect for you. You are not entering a battle. You are entering a ceremony of confirmation. I want to ask you a question. What is your default facial expression? Most people walk around with a look of mild anxiety or a blank, slightly confused stare. This is a low-value signal.
The premium individual carries a look of controlled curiosity. It is a slight, almost imperceptible smile, a Mona Lisa look that suggests you know something the rest of the world doesn't. It makes people want to get close to you to find out what it is.
Consider the law of reciprocity in a new light. Most people think this means if I do something for you, you will do something for me. But at the highest levels, reciprocity is about emotional state. If you bring a high vibe, calm, and certain energy to a meeting, the other person will subconsciously mirror that energy. They will feel better simply by being near you. They won't know why they want to do business with you. They will just know that they feel right in your presence. You are not selling a product. You are selling a feeling of safety and success. I once mentored a young woman who was a brilliant coder but was terrified of public speaking. She had to pitch her startup to a room of 20 cynical investors. She was shaking. I told her, don't try to be a public speaker. Try to be a lighthouse. A lighthouse doesn't run around the beach looking for boats to save. It just stands there and shines. I told her to pick one person in the room, look them in the eye, and imagine she was telling them a secret that would make them rich. She didn't use a podium. She didn't use a laser pointer. She just stood and shone. She raised $2 million that day. How do you handle a mistake? This is the ultimate test of resonance. When a low-status person makes a mistake, they apologize profusely, they blush, they try to fix it immediately. They show that their internal world has been shattered. When a high-status person makes a mistake, they acknowledge it with a brief smile, maybe a small joke, and move on instantly. They show that they are bigger than their errors. This resilience is incredibly attractive to partners and investors because it suggests that you can handle the inevitable crises of business without breaking. I want you to try a social fast this weekend. When you go out, try to speak 50% less than you usually do. Don't use filler words. If there is a silence, let it sit. Notice how much more power you feel when you are not the one trying to keep the conversation alive. Notice how others start to work harder to impress you. You are training yourself to be the prize. You are learning that your silence is just as influential as your speech. The world is a mirror. If you walk out into it feeling like a victim, it will give you reasons to be one. If you walk out into it feeling like a king or a queen, it will eventually find a way to crown you. But the feeling must come first. The resonance must be genuine. You cannot fake the smell of success, but you can cultivate the habits that produce it. As you close this chapter, I want you to take a long look in the mirror, not to judge your features, but to look at your eyes. Are they steady? Is there a spark of certainty? From this moment on, you are no longer just a person who talks. You are a person who resonates. You are a person who influences by simply existing in a space. You are becoming a master of the invisible architecture of power. We have 4 more chapters to go. We are about to move into the dark arts of narrative and the mechanics of the ultimate close. But for now, just sit in your own stillness. Feel the weight of your own potential. You are already changing. Think back to the last time you were completely captivated. Perhaps it was a film, a speech, or a mentor who held you in a trance. You didn't care about the statistics or the technical details in that moment. You were transported into a different world. This is the narrative transport effect. When you tell a story, the listener's brain synchronizes with yours. Their neurons fire as if they are experiencing your words themselves. This is the closest thing to mind control that exists in the natural world.
The mistake most ambitious young adults make is that they make themselves the hero of every story they tell. They talk about their struggles, their wins, and their dreams. But here is the hard truth. No one cares about your story. They only care about their own. To be truly influential, you must cast the person you are speaking to as the hero, and yourself as the mentor, the one with the map, the one with the secret, the one who facilitates their transformation. You are the Gandalf to their Frodo. You are the Obi-Wan to their Luke. Let's break down the structure of a premium narrative. It doesn't require a campfire and a guitar. It requires 3 simple elements: a conflict, a choice, and a change. If you are pitching a business idea, don't start with the features. Start with the old world, the status quo that is no longer working. Describe the pain of that world so vividly that your listener feels it. Then introduce the choice, your solution. Finally, paint a picture of the new world, the transformation that happens once they choose your path. I once sat in on a negotiation for a massive tech acquisition. One founder spent an hour showing charts and projections. The investors were yawning. The second founder walked in, sat down, and said, "Last year, 3,000 small business owners lost their homes because they couldn't track their cash flow. We built this so that next year that number is 0. Do you want to be part of the solution?" He didn't show a single chart. He sold a new world. He got the funding because he gave the investors a story they could tell themselves about being heroes. Are you using emotional anchors in your communication? An anchor is a specific detail that makes a story real. Instead of saying, "I worked hard," say, "I spent 18 hours in a windowless basement with nothing but black coffee and a broken radiator." The basement and the radiator are anchors. They give the listener's mind something to hold on to. They make your narrative 3-dimensional. When you provide specific sensory details, you bypass the critical analytical part of the brain and go straight to the subconscious. Think about your personal brand. What is the origin story you tell about yourself? If you don't define it, others will define it for you, and they will usually choose a version that makes them feel superior. You must curate your past to serve your future. Every failure you've had wasn't a mistake, it was the great lesson. Every setback was the necessary trial. When you speak about your journey, do you sound like a victim of circumstance or a master of destiny? The facts remain the same, but the narrative changes everything. I want you to consider the power of the future pace. This is a technique where you walk the other person through their future success as if it has already happened. Instead of saying, "If you hire me, I will do X," you say, "Imagine it's 6 months from now. We've hit our targets, the team is energized, and you're finally able to focus on the expansion you've been planning. How does that feel?" By the time they answer, they have already hired you. You have created a memory of a future that hasn't happened yet.
Why do we trust certain people instinctively? It is often because they share their vulnerabilities strategically. This is the pratfall effect. A person who is perceived as highly competent becomes even more likable and influential when they admit to a small mistake or a minor flaw. It humanizes the mystery we talked about in earlier chapters. It shows that you are so secure in your status that you don't need to be perfect. But be careful. If you are not yet perceived as competent, showing vulnerability will just make you look weak. Mastery first, humanity second. Have you ever noticed how the world's most successful brands sell a lifestyle rather than a product? They are selling a narrative of who you become when you use their goods. You must do the same with your personality. You are not selling your labor. You are selling the experience of being in your orbit. You are selling the narrative of success by association. When you talk to a potential partner, don't just talk about the deal. Talk about the kingdom you are building. Invite them to be a citizen of that kingdom. Let's try a mental exercise. If your life was a book, what would the current chapter be called? Is it The Struggle, The Waiting Room, or is it The Awakening? Change the title right now. If you decide this chapter is called The Architect's Rise, your behavior will automatically align with that title. You will speak with more authority. You will take more calculated risks. You will stop accepting the crumbs the world offers because the architect knows he is meant for the feast. One of the most powerful tools in a narrator's toolkit is the open loop. This is when you start a story or mention a fascinating concept, but don't finish it immediately. You leave the brain hanging. This creates tension of completion. It's why you can't stop watching a good TV series. In a business meeting, you might say, there is one specific reason why this project will likely double your revenue in the first quarter. But before I get into that, let's look at the logistics. Now you have their undivided attention for the logistics because they are waiting for the why. I want you to start looking at every interaction as a scene in a movie. Who is the protagonist? What is the conflict? What is the resolution? When you view life this way, you stop being reactive. You become the director. If a scene isn't going well, you don't get angry. You just change the script. You shift the frame. You introduce a new narrative element. This level of detachment is the hallmark of the millionaire mentor. Tomorrow, when you speak to someone, try to tell one micro story. It should be no longer than 60 seconds. It should have a clear conflict and a clear resolution. Use it to illustrate a point. Watch their eyes. You will see them dilate. You will see them lean in. You have just bypassed their filters. You are now writing directly onto the hard drive of their subconscious. You are no longer just a person of status and mystery. You are a storyteller. You are a weaver of dreams and a builder of realities. The world is made of words. Choose yours carefully, and you can build whatever world you desire. We are approaching the final stages of our journey. You have the tools to attract, to frame, and to persuade. Now we must learn the art of the ultimate commitment. Subscribe the Millionaire Library, and if you want to go deeper, I left a full playlist waiting for you in the description.
Chapter 8. The Art of the Absolute Close. Closing is not a single moment at the end of a deal. It is a state of being that begins the second you enter a room. Most people fail at the finish line because they become needy at the last second. They do the work, they build the rapport, they hold the frame, but when it comes time to ask for the money or the commitment, their voice shakes, they look for approval, they blink too much. This is the closer's curse. They snatch defeat from the jaws of victory because they cannot handle the tension of the final decision. To be a master closer, you must adopt the assumption of success. You do not ask if someone wants to move forward. You discuss how you will move forward together. This is a subtle but profound shift in your internal language. Instead of saying, "So, do you think you'd like to work with me?" You say, "Based on our conversation, the next logical step is to finalize the contract by Friday so we can start on Monday. Does that timeline work for your team?" You are not asking for a decision. You are providing a path. You have already closed the deal in your mind. You are simply waiting for their physical reality to catch up. Think about the last time you bought something truly premium, a high-end car, a luxury watch, or a consultation with a top-tier expert. Did they beg you to buy? Did they follow up 10 times with just checking in emails? No. They set the terms, showed you the value, and then they stood still. They were willing to let you walk away. This is the takeaway close. It is the most powerful tool in your arsenal. When you signal that you are willing to walk away from a deal and truly mean it, your value in the eyes of the other person triples instantly. I once coached a consultant who was terrified of losing a major client. He was about to offer a 30% discount just to keep them. I told him to do the opposite. I told him to call them and say, "I've been reviewing our progress and our upcoming capacity. We are moving toward a more specialized model, and I'm not sure if our current arrangement will be the best fit for our new direction. Let's talk about whether it makes sense to continue or if I should help you transition to someone else." The client didn't just stay. They offered to pay him more to ensure they remained a priority. He closed them by being willing to lose them. Are you afraid of the word no? Most people treat a no like a door slamming in their face. A master of influence treats no as the beginning of the real conversation. No is often just a person's way of protecting their space. It's a safety mechanism. When someone says no, don't get defensive, don't argue. Just say, "I respect that." Usually when someone says no at this stage, it's because something about the terms doesn't feel quite right yet. What would have to change for this to be a perfect fit? Now they are the ones pitching you on how to make the deal work. How do you handle the silence after you name your price? This is where fortunes are made or lost. In every negotiation, there is a wall of silence that occurs after the ask. The person who speaks first during this silence is the one who is uncomfortable. If you speak, you are likely to offer a concession. You are negotiating against yourself. If you name your price, whether it's for a salary, a service, or a piece of equity, you must lock your jaw, look them in the eye, breathe. Let the silence do the work of breaking their resistance. If you can't handle 5 seconds of silence, you can't handle $1 million. Let's talk about the mental rehearsal. Before any major interaction, I want you to visualize the close. But don't just visualize them saying yes. Visualize yourself being completely indifferent to their answer. See yourself walking out of the room with the same calm, steady energy, whether they sign or they don't. This outcome independence is the ultimate secret of the elite. When you don't need the result, you are free to perform at your highest level. Your lack of desperation becomes your greatest source of charisma.
Why do some people always seem to have leverage? Leverage is rarely about having more money or more power. Leverage is about having options. If you only have one job lead, you are a slave to that interview. If you have 5, you are a king. To be a master of the close, you must constantly be building your pipeline. You should never enter a negotiation where you need the win. You should always be in a position to walk away to something better. This is why the rich get richer. They have the luxury of saying no to bad deals, which inevitably attracts better ones. Think about your personal relationships. The same rules apply. The person who is most willing to leave a relationship is the one who sets the terms of that relationship. This isn't about being cruel, it's about having standards. When you have high standards and the discipline to enforce them, people will work harder to meet them. They will close themselves on being part of your life because they see that your life is a high-value territory that requires an invitation. I want you to try the reverse close tomorrow. When someone asks for your help or your time, don't say yes immediately. Ask them a few qualifying questions first. Why are you looking to do this now? What have you tried before? What makes you think I'm the right person to help with this? Make them pitch you on why you should give them your attention. By the time you agree to help, they have already convinced themselves of your value. You didn't close them, they closed themselves. You are entering the final stage of your transformation. You have the presence, the voice, the frames, and the narrative. Now you have the kill switch, the ability to finalize the reality you have built. Closing is not an act of aggression, it is an act of leadership. People are often afraid to make decisions. They are paralyzed by the fear of being wrong. When you close with authority, you are actually relieving their anxiety. You are taking the weight of the decision off their shoulders and onto your own. What is the one thing in your life right now that you have been waiting for? A promotion? A new client? A romantic partner? I want you to stop waiting. I want you to decide that the deal is already closed. Act as if the outcome is certain. Speak as if the future has already arrived. The universe has a way of bowing to those who refuse to flinch. We have one chapter left. We are going to integrate everything you have learned into a permanent philosophy of life. You are almost there. Stay quiet. Stay certain. The world is about to open its doors to you.
Chapter 9. The Sovereign Mind. This is our final chapter together, but it is the beginning of your real life. We have traveled through the mechanics of the voice, the power of the frame, the magnetism of mystery, and the psychology of the close. But all of these tools are useless if you do not possess a sovereign mind. Sovereignty is the internal realization that you are the sole authority over your reality. It is the end of seeking permission. It is the end of explaining yourself. It is the moment you realize that the millionaire mentor you have been listening to is not a person outside of you, but a potential within you that has finally been awakened. I want you to look back at the version of you that started this journey. That person was likely looking for tips and tricks to get ahead. They wanted to know how to move their hands or what words to say to make people like them. I hope you realize now that those are just the shadows on the wall. The real work is the internal shift in your self-worth. You don't get what you want in life, you get what you are. If you are a person who respects their own time, the world will respect it. If you are a person who speaks with truth and weight, the world will listen. If you are a person who is willing to walk away from anything that does not serve your vision, the world will offer you everything. Think about the concept of the long game. Influence is not about winning a single argument or closing a single deal. It is about building a reputation that precedes you. In the circles I run in, your name is your most valuable asset. When your name is mentioned in a room where you are not present, what do people say? Do they say you are a person who can be pushed around? Or do they say you are a person of immovable principles and undeniable value? This reputation is built in the small moments, the way you handle a waiter, the way you keep a promise to yourself, the way you maintain your composure when things go wrong. Let me tell you a final story. I knew a man who lost everything in a market crash. His houses, his cars, his liquid cash, all gone in 90 days. Most people would have disappeared. Most people would have let their shoulders slump and their voice crack. But this man understood the architecture of status. He continued to walk with the same posture. He continued to speak with the same resonance. He sat in coffee shops with a single cup of espresso and acted as if he still owned the city. Because his internal frame never broke, his external reality had to reconstruct itself to match him. Within 2 years, he was wealthier than he had ever been. You can lose your money, but you can never lose your mastery unless you give it away. Are you ready to be the person who makes others uncomfortable with your level of certainty? Most people are so used to the social dance of hesitation and apology that when they meet someone truly sovereign, it shocks them. They might call you arrogant. They might call you cold. Let them. Arrogance is just what the timid call confidence. Coldness is just what the chaotic call boundaries.
Your job is not to make everyone comfortable. Your job is to fulfill your potential and lead those who are ready to follow. I want you to take a moment to appreciate how far you have come. You have spent time investing in the most important asset you will ever own, your own mind. You have chosen to step out of the noise and into the signal. That alone puts you in the top 1% of your generation. Most people are busy consuming. You are busy constructing. That distinction will make you more money and bring you more power than any degree or inheritance ever could. As we conclude, I want to offer you my sincere congratulations. You have completed this transmission. You have the map, you have the weapons, you have the armor. The world is a vast, beautiful, and often brutal playground. It is waiting for you to make your mark. Do not be afraid of the tension. Do not be afraid of the silence. Embrace the mystery of your own life. When you speak, speak as if your words are etched in stone. When you move, move as if the earth was made for your feet. I am proud of the transition you are making. It takes courage to admit that you have been playing small. It takes even more courage to actually grow. Go out there and claim what is yours, not because you are greedy, but because the world needs more people who are capable of leading with clarity and influence. You are now a member of a very small group of individuals who understand how the game is truly played. Thank you for trusting me to be your guide on this path. It has been an honor to share these insights with you. Our journey in this format may be ending, but our connection through these principles is permanent. I expect great things from you. Don't let me down, but more importantly, don't let yourself down. The life you want is not a dream, it is a destination, and you are already on the road. Farewell for now. Stay calm, stay certain, and always, always remain the master of your frame. Subscribe the Millionaire Library, and if you want to go deeper, I left a full playlist waiting for you in the description.
Chapter 10. The Eternal Standard. This final chapter is not a summary, it is an initiation. We have spent 9 chapters building a high-performance machine out of your personality. We have tuned your voice, sharpened your mind, and armored your spirit. But a machine is useless without a driver who knows how to handle the speed. The world you are entering now, the world of high-level influence and premium success, is not a place of comfort. It is a place of constant testing. To survive and thrive here, you must move beyond the need for motivation and enter the realm of obsession. What is your standard? Not your goals, but your standard. A goal is something you hope to achieve. A standard is the bare minimum you are willing to accept from yourself and the world around you. Most people have high goals and low standards. They want the $1 million life while maintaining a $1,000 work ethic. They want the respect of a leader while displaying the habits of a follower. If you want to sustain the influence we have discussed, your standards must be immovable. You must be the person who is more disciplined, more present, and more certain than anyone else, even when no one is watching. Let me tell you about a meeting I had with a man who worth several $1 billion. We were on his yacht, and despite the luxury surrounding him, he was focused on one thing, the precision of his communication with his staff. He didn't yell, he didn't demand, he spoke with a quiet, lethal clarity. When a small mistake was made in a report, he didn't get angry. He simply looked at the person responsible and said, "This does not meet the standard we agreed upon. Fix it." The air in the room changed. It wasn't about the mistake, it was about the violation of the excellence he represented. That is sovereignty. He didn't need to be liked, he needed the world to reflect his internal order. Are you willing to be the bad guy in someone else's story to protect your own vision? Influence requires you to say no to good opportunities so you can say yes to great ones. It requires you to cut ties with people who drain your energy, even if you've known them for years. If your standard is excellence, you cannot tolerate mediocrity in your inner circle. The people you spend time with are the frame of your life. If they are small-minded and reactive, they will eventually pull your frequency down to theirs. You must be ruthless with your environment. Think about the concept of the invisible lead. In any field, there are the people who are famous, and then there are the people who actually run things. The latter often prefer to remain in the shadows, exerting their influence through a web of high-value relationships and strategic silence. This is the ultimate goal of the premium communicator. You don't want to be the one shouting for attention on the stage. You want to be the one the person on the stage calls for advice before they go out. You want to be the power behind the power. How do you maintain your edge when you finally start winning? This is the most dangerous phase of your journey. Success is a powerful sedative. It makes you soft. It makes you think you've made it. The moment you stop being a student of influence is the moment you start losing it. You must stay hungry. You must continue to observe the shifts in human psychology, the changes in the market, and the evolution of social frames. Mastery is not a trophy on a shelf. It is a blade that must be sharpened every single morning. I want you to reflect on the word legacy. What are you building that will outlast your physical presence? Real influence leaves a dent in the universe. It changes how people think, how they act, and what they believe is possible. By mastering communication and charisma, you are not just getting what you want, you are becoming a beacon for others. You are showing the ambitious young adults behind you that it is possible to be powerful without being loud, to be rich without being greedy, and to be influential without losing your soul. I have given you the keys to the kingdom, but remember, a key is just a piece of metal until you put it in the lock and turn it. The knowledge in this book is dormant until you apply it in the real world, under pressure, when it matters most. I want you to go out and fail. I want you to lose a frame. I want you to mess up a close, because that is where the real learning happens. The Millionaire Mentor is not the voice in your ear. It is the experience you gain by being in the arena. I want to finish our journey by thanking you for your attention. In an age of 3-second distractions, you have shown the discipline to sit with deep concepts. You have shown that you are different. You have shown that you are ready. I am officially passing the torch to you. The principles of status, mystery, and narrative are now yours to command. Use them to build a life that is not just successful, but significant. Congratulations. You are no longer searching for the path. You are the path. You are the architect. You are the sovereign. The world has been waiting for someone like you to step up and take control. Do not keep it waiting any longer. Go out and claim your destiny. This is the end of the recording, but it is the first day of your new reality. Stay sharp, stay calm, and as always, protect your frame at all costs.